What is going on, YouTubeverse? John Stanek from Johnny Radio here, bringing you another Top 5 on this glorious Top 5 Friday. And I'm so excited because we made it to my favorite year in all of music history, 1991. And I'm going to be talking about my top 5 favorite albums of that year. This was extremely hard to whittle down because there were so many great ones, but I think I did it. So let's get right to it. At number 5, Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magic by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Man, what a record this is. I mean, just the hits alone. You had Give It Away, you had Under the Bridge, Breaking the Girl. There's B-sides on here that you often forget about, like I Could Have Lied, which is just one of their greatest tracks. I mean, John Frusciante's guitar playing all over this record is amazing, and it really proves why he's always been their best guitarist. I mean, every album that he's on tends to be their greatest, if you had to do a top 5 of the Chili Peppers. But yeah, there's really not a weak track on this album. Even the silly ones like, Mellow Ship in B minor or whatever. I can't remember if that's a title or not, but there's Funky Monks and like all kinds of great fun songs in between the hits. But the musicianship just all over this thing, especially by Flea and Frusciante, is fantastic. And Anthony Kiedis, his singing is actually quite good on this album. The title track as well, just so great from start to finish. And that's just at my number 5. So now at number 4, The Low End Theory by A Tribe Called Quest. Absolutely one of the greatest hip hop albums of all time. And this, coming off the heels of their debut album, just took it to another level. Just from the opening track, Excursions, you've got that cool bass line. And then, Q-Tip coming in with that back in the days when I was a teenager, before I had status and before I had a pager. It's so great. And then the second bass comes in and it's like mind-blowing. The sound of this record is so good. And the way they employ some old jazz music into the mix, they were some of the best at sampling in the business, but also the beats are so strong. Phife Dawg was at another level on this album, matching Q-Tip in many ways on songs like Buggin' Out. And then, of course, the end of the album closing out big on Scenario with people like Busta Rhymes as a guest when no one even knew who he was yet. Just incredible. Check the Rhyme, We Got the Jazz. I mean, it's such a fun album. Anytime I put it on, I'm brought back to 1991 in the best of ways. And that's just my number 4. So now at number 3, Ten by Pearl Jam. Oh man, I can't believe this is only my number 3, because if we're talking nostalgia right now, I remember having this on a cassette tape, listening on my Walkman everywhere I went back in those days. I listened to Oceans while I was on the beach. I have vivid memories of that. I love that song. Like, even the B-sides on this album are fantastic. Garden, Deep, Porch. But of course, you're in it for the hits, right? Alive, Even Flow, Jeremy, Black, one of the greatest just ballads of all time. That's like a heartbreaking one at that. But and then, of course, the closing track, Release. I mean, one of the greatest debut albums ever made. The fact that Eddie Vedder was new to this band, and then they recorded an album just weeks into having him as a vocalist. The story is incredible. If you haven't seen the documentary PJ20, directed by Cameron Crowe, check it out, because it really shows you the history of the whole band, or their first 20 years. But especially in those early days, what an incredible story and what a triumph of a debut album. And that's just my number 3. So now at number 2, Nevermind by Nirvana. Yes, a lot of you would have this at number one. I mean, again, one of the greatest albums of all time. And this, a lot of people thought this was their debut. Bleach actually was in '89. But man, this is one of the greatest sophomore albums of all time, from the opener of Smells Like Teen Spirit. I mean, it's almost like one of those things where you remember where you were the first time you heard it or saw it on MTV. Then you got In Bloom, Come As You Are, Lithium, every single song on this album. I remember thinking back to the days I was 13, because this was my coming of age years, 91. So that also helps with this year being very nostalgic. But I remember coming home from school and putting Nevermind on and playing video games for hours and just listening to the whole album over and over again. Never got tired of it, and still never do. I mean, just the haunting Something in the Way, closing it. Of course, Polly on side A. Just some amazing songs by Kurt Cobain. I think still, even though he's so highly regarded, sometimes he doesn't get his due as a songwriter. But then, of course, as a screaming vocalist, one of the best in the business, and Dave Grohl. I mean, I could go on and on about it. Just incredible, and that's just my number two. So now at number one, Achtung Baby by U2. I had to put this at number one. As you may already know, One from this album is my favorite song of all time. I think it's just hauntingly beautiful. Bono, just amazing, both lyrically and vocally. The Edge, just serving the song perfectly. But this whole album, I think of it as a pop album, because I mean, the hooks on this thing, it's just, it's so commercial, but then yet it's so like alternative and experimental. There's elements of industrial rock on here. Part of it was actually recorded in Hansa Studios in Berlin. So they had kind of like this new wave German rock influence on them, as well as so many different influences from classic rock to futuristic rock, that somewhere they came together in between and created just such an amazing soundscape. And with the production of Lanois and Brian Eno, man, incredible. And also Flood worked on this thing on songs like Mysterious Ways, which just that guitar riff is so cool that it sounds like the Edge like dropped his guitar but made a riff out of it and made this amazing song that has such a strong bass groove. Oh man, Adam Clayton's bass throughout this album just makes you want to groove and put your teeth out like, yeah, throughout the whole album. But yeah, from Zoo Station all the way to the end, Love Is Blindness. You know, there's some really dark songs on here as well, but you know, The Fly is a great rocker. Until the End of the World is another just fantastic rocker. And Larry Mullen Jr.'s drumming on these songs is so great. And you know, they had just made the Joshua Tree, which many people think is their best album, just a few years before, and then totally shifted gears in a beautiful way, kind of like when Radiohead went from OK Computer to Kid A. This, I think, was even better, where you know, Bono called this chopping down the Joshua Tree to make something new. And Achtung Baby, I think, is U2's best album, and my favorite of 91. So let me know in the comments below what you think. What would your top 5 be? I would love to see it. And if you're so bold, leave me a top 10. As I said, 1991, I've come to realize, is my favorite year in music history, going back all the way into the 60s. If you haven't watched, by the way, I've been doing this top 5 show, counting down all the way from 1965, and I'm going to eventually make it to current day. But guys, we got top 5s every Friday, album reviews, so much more. Thank you for watching, and as always, Viva La Vinyl. So guys, thanks so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and be sure to ring the bell for notifications so you can always see great quality content like you're seeing on the screen right now. Thank you so much for supporting Johnny Radio, and I'll see you soon.